Hello and welcome to my new video, this time about wind sprites, insectoid elemental rays. Wind sprites are a magical race of elementalists. While associated with elements of air, they are descendants of many elementals, including spheres in particular, and they have a form of insect with traits of primates. Despite their whimsical beauty, they are a peculiar race of petty scavengers who are often being part of larger cultures, such as various elven cultural subraces. Basic information. Anatomy. They possess a body that resembles a certain organ of insects, depending on the individual subrace, but they also possess a closed cadavascular system, a spine, and a skull. Their heads have faces more reminiscent of adamant ones, albeit with blinking compound and unblinking simple eyes, antennae, and mandibles in it. They have a ribcage and possess lungs in addition to spiracles. Their bodies are somewhat centroid in shape for most of them, but a few humanoid subraces are also present. Their legs are most like the ones of their insect equivalents, albeit proportionally thicker. The innate elementalistic form of passive gift for each 8 elements, 4 active gifts for each greater element, and they sometimes possess one of 4 gifts for each lesser element. For water, it is innate knowledge of currents. For fire, it is resistance to ambient environmental heat. For air, it is greater adjustable absorption of oxygen. For air, it is enhanced physical resilience and strength. For metal, they are immune to toxic effects of heavy metals. For wood, they have a preternatural intuitive knack for crafting items. For ether, they are able to perceive the spirit world, and for flesh, they have faster healing. The active gifts are innate hydrokinesis, albeit limited to very small amounts of water, ability to strengthen lift force to make them better flyers, ability to lower temperature of a particular amount of substance, ability to raise temperature of particular amount of substance. They can have any of following, and they can have any of the following: ability to produce healing dust, ability to absorb energy from light, ability to conjure electricity, ability to generate a personal magnetic field. Subraces. Like with all other elementalized races, there are 8 subraces of wind sprites. They define life cycle that a wind sprite has, as well as whenever they are eusocial. It should be noted that the subrace and insect clade are not 100% connected with. For example, cockroach and ant sprites being among beetle sprites. Firefly sprites of fire, bee sprites of earth, dragonfly sprites of water, fly sprites of air, beetle sprites of flesh, mantis sprites of ether, butterfly sprites of metal, and locust sprites of wood. Projectiles. They are usual endothermic, possessing no heat, and they also shed like insects. Gender and reproduction. They possess 2 sexes like adamites, but their gender determination depends on what subrace they are. They also lay eggs. Growth rate and stages. The life cycle of a wind sprite depends on insects they are most closely associated with. The ones with holometabolic ones have a tadpole-like larva, while the ones with incomplete metamorphosis have a larval stage much more similar to a mature version. Unlike their totems, fully metamorphized wind sprites live a long life after metamorphosis. Ecology and habitats. Generally, they tend to have the same ecological niche as the equivalent insect. Their insect habitats. Generally, wind sprites does not have a food that they cannot eat, but they require more of a type of a food in their diet if their equivalent insect consumes this type of food in majority. For example, a bee sprite needs more nectar and pollen, a mosquito sprite needs more blood, and the butterfly sprite might need both of aforementioned foods as well as tears. Behavior. The psychology of wind sprites has 3 major aspects of wind, opportunity, and survival. They are mercurial scavengers and are often coordinate. This scavenging also applies to their cultures, with cultures of solitary subraces particularly copying their society from neighboring cultures, and even asocial ones having the neighbors will be a high influence on their culture. The only difference between asocial hives, the only difference being asocial hive structure being getting superimposed onto such culture. Additional information. Social structure. Solitary wind sprites do not have that much of innate social structure and usually adopt ones found in neighboring societies of other whites. So do white sprites who belong to eusocial bases, but they have influences of eusocial structure in these societies, often to the systems royal courts and clan-based tribal societies, or sometimes both. Facial characteristics. The faces resemble a cross between a face of Adamites of an Adamite and their insect equivalent. It means that their faces feature a pair of compound eyes that possess eyelids, plus a few of lidless simple eyes, a small nose, and a jaw. Depending on the subrange, they may possess mandibles and elongated tongue, mimicking the lingual apparatus of a butterfly, or some other strange features. Both nose and mouth are connected to the widespread lungs and contain chemical receptors, in addition to ones found on their antenna. Average intelligence. Regular support level is slightly ascended by the mercurial nature. Perception and social capabilities. Wind sprites possess compound eyes which possess eyelids, which are only used to sleep. They do not blink unless to imitate otherwise that do. These eyes give them great vision, including ultraviolet, infrared, and visible spectrum. They also possess excellent sense of smell, but not from their noses, which are mostly for inhaling air, but from their antennas, which are capable of detecting smells from miles away. These antennas are also excellent sound detectors, able to detect faint whispers from miles away. Symbiotic and parasitic organisms. They have domesticated several species of insects to use for livestock, as well as some arachnid species using them like dogs or cats. Fly larvae are fattened and adult flies are slaughtered, their meat used like pork, silkworms like cows, their silk being used like milk or for rats, while various spiders are used as shepherds, pest control, or as fancy pets. Civilization and culture. Naming tradition. Generally, they use names that are insectified versions of names of their neighbors, such as Bzrat or Jepsiga. Gender ideas, usually similar to the ideas of neighboring cultures, but influenced by their equivalent insect's nature. Major language groups and dialects. They usually do not develop their own languages. They always develop their own dialects by adding level of additional sound by using vocalization methods of their insect equivalents. This additional level of vocalization allows for adding new dimension of meaning and nuance to their speech. This sometimes leads to development of multidimensional speech. Common dress code. Usually they make clothes from things like flowers or leaves, imitating the dress code of neighboring communities. Interspecies relations and assumptions. The cultural scavenging means they are frequently incorporated in various elven cultural subraces in which they usually have the same social role as pixies. Also, sometimes they are incorporated in shading or gene societies. Their interaction with Adamites and many other mundane white races tend to be varied. On the other hand, they are colorful bug-like creatures of whimsy. On the other hand, they are often thieves and borderline pests, particularly towards the peasants. Among the magical white races, they tend to get along with pixies and kobolds, but tend to be hostile towards the dwarves, which is interesting considering the elemental affiliation.